part of the reason why a lot of the issues with Post Chain started. Um, I feel bad about it, and I'll be the bigger person and apologize. I don't like that you're getting trolled this way. I think initially we always wanted to build bridges and be a part of the cool stuff that you guys have going on, and there were a lot of people that kind of just felt maybe you misspoke or whatever when you did the interview with David, and they felt like you kind of conflated two different issues between a criminal case and a civil case. And a lot of people took issue with that because it was kind of flooding their bags and making people think that, there was this criminal case in the United States against Richard that wasn't going to get dropped. And, that was where a lot of the backlash came from. But I don't think it's cool that you're getting trolled and essentially, I guess, bullied to the extent that you are. But the one thing that I will say is you got to understand just how pushed around and bullied this community has been by the greater crypto community as a whole. So whenever people attack them or they perceive attack, they generally tend to go on the defensive really quick because there's a lot of trauma there.
Well, I appreciate that. You do also have to understand that you've made enemies out of people that aren't enemies, and you have to be self-reflective. If all you do is attack people, maybe, just maybe, the reason why you're being bullied is because you earned it. Cardano had nothing to do with Pulse Chain or Hex. We didn't care, and we had no relationship there. And now it's left an absolutely bitter, horrendous taste in my mouth, including from your founder on down. And it's going to be hard for me to objectively look at that and say, oh, well, it's all forgiven and forgotten. That was completely self-inflicted. Again, the fact pattern is absolutely the same. I still believe this case against Richard will not be dropped. I still believe that there's a criminal case, because there is one in Finland, and I believe there's a strong possibility that could be extended into the United States through the IRS after he gets arrested. Okay, and I appreciate people can have a difference of opinion of these things. These are my beliefs. This is not an attack on the Pulse Chain community. This is a statement of facts. There is a red notice. It exists. Your community seems to not say that, or say it's a deep state conspiracy or all this other stuff. There is a fraud case, securities fraud, personally against Richard, not against a company, not against a token issuing entity, not against a foundation, against Richard personally as a person. That's a different nature of a case. They say, well, it's not criminal. You lied. You said it was criminal. The SEC cannot and never has brought a criminal case against somebody. They're a civil enforcement agency. Of course, it's not criminal. They're not allowed to do that, which is why they coordinate with the Department of Justice, the IRS, the CFTC, and other agencies for them to levy criminal cases where and when appropriate. And typically, when you have one federal agency going after you, it's an invitation for more than one federal agency to go after you. If they say you've committed securities fraud, you probably have not paid your taxes according to their opinion, which opens up the CID to investigate you at the IRS. If they say you've committed securities fraud, perhaps you've also committed an OFAC violation. If you've committed securities fraud, perhaps you've committed bank fraud. Because when you sign up for a bank account in the United States, you sign a lot of documents. And those documents give the banks broad remits on forcing you to tell them the nature of your business. And if you don't tell them the business, that's fraud, which means you can be charged with wire fraud, bank fraud, all kinds of things. Now, I appreciate that everyday crypto people don't understand these nuances. And I've had to learn them over the last 15 years, watching friends of mine like Roger Ver get arrested, looking at a century in prison for taxes 10 years ago that he thought he didn't have to pay because his lawyers told him he didn't, and he rescinded his U.S. citizenship. I appreciate these things because I watched what happened to John McAfee, who was also a friend of mine, who was on the run from the tax man for several years. Appreciate these things because every exchange I have a relationship with got sued by the Securities Exchange Commission, and I had to talk to them, deal with them, and in some of those lawsuits, ADA was listed as a security, which obviously meant that we got dragged into these things, and we didn't want to be, but we did, and we spent the last 3 years dealing with that. Okay, and the appropriate response was, let's all work together. So talk to Ben, talk to CZ, talk to Jesse, talk to all the other Layer 1 founders. And yes, sometimes we razz each other over Twitter. The appropriate response was not, well, anytime one of these ecosystems does something negative against me, we should rally the entire Cardano ecosystem to hate them and burn them to the ground and harass them brutally over Twitter. Where are the mobs of people on Cardano going after Vitalik? Where are the mobs of people on Cardano going after Anatoly or Ben or any of the people that we've had grievances with or perceived grievances with over the years? That's the difference. And it's not an excuse to say, well, we're fragile because no one gives us respect. Well, maybe, just maybe, there's more to that than just everybody hates you just because they're jealous. And have
Can I
some
ask you a
self-reflection,
question?
man.
Can I ask you a question about like Roger and those guys? Like, how come you are able to say that they're being unfairly targeted, but not Richard? I don't
Because I
understand.
personally know Roger Ver, and I've spent years knowing Roger Ver. I've known him since 2011. So after I have 14 years of experience with the man, maybe, just maybe, I can make a value judgment on the nature of the case. And I also know CZ. And here's the thing, CZ's worth $100 billion. 80% of all altcoin volume goes through his exchange. And he has a direct relationship with many of the governments of the world. And he was a big supporter of Trump.
But he also ran one of the most corrupt exchanges in the early days of crypto. Like, you and I were both here for that, and you know how corrupt it was.
I have no bearing to know if that was corrupt or not, and you don't either. Because if it was so corrupt, why is he not in prison? If it was
Because
so
back then it was the Wild West. You were here, dude. Like, you know how it was.
If it was the Wild West, then how come the federal government didn't just charge him with all of that?
Because they didn't have enforcement back then, and
they
you
didn't have
know that
enforcement.
nobody was getting pursued. There was a lot of crime happening internationally.
You mean the exchanges didn't keep records? You mean they couldn't derive those records from the blockchain like they did with Silk Road and everything else? There's not a firm called Chainalysis and Elliptic?
I mean, he also did just go to prison.
He went for 4 months, and the big thing that they got pissed off after going through 11 million documents was some accounts that were on an OFAC sanctioned list should have probably not been serviced. And that's why he only got 4 months.
Well, here's the thing, right? I'm just going to, I don't mean to cut you off, but like, I'm not here to argue their cases. Like, I actually support all of them. Roger, CZ, Snowden, Assange. I think all these people
you just called Binance corrupt. But
yeah, they were very scammy in the early days. Like, they were doing a lot of wash trading and faking volume. Like, come on, dude. Like, let's not pretend like it wasn't that.
Chill, relax, brother. Like, I brought you up because I thought you were gonna apologize to Charles.
I did apologize, and
it seems like you're being on the defensive, brother.
Jesus, man, you don't even know it. You got swayed by a charismatic guy in a fucking Louis Vuitton jumpsuit.
Yeah,
this is what I'm talking about, dude. Like, this is how you really believe and think. Like,
that's what everyone thinks, though, man. Like,
why? And every time somebody says maybe, just maybe, there's an issue here, instead of you attack the people and then you apologize for being defensive.
See, now I'm for even apologizing because you just exposed yourself.
You really haven't apologized.
That's exactly right.
I did apologize.
You didn't apologize.
I'm saying that I'm sorry that you
understand the nature of why I have grievances and what the issues are, and then you drag my friends in and just call my friend CZ corrupt. Fuck you. You don't know CZ. You've never met the man. You've never spent any time with him. He's one of the most honest, hardworking people in the entire cryptocurrency space. You have no evidence or personal knowledge of their operations or how hard they tried or the environment that they grew up in. And the fact that he's still around and still capable of doing the things that he did and went to prison and he's back after 4 months of that hell. And being a political prisoner, absolutely. He was the symbol of the cryptocurrency space, and Biden himself said, put this man in jail. I don't care how. How hard is it when the president of the United States of America has got a hard on to put you in jail to fight that fucking thing? And you know what? He could have. He was in an extradition-free country in Abu Dhabi, and he could have played politics and bribed people and stayed in as a fugitive in Abu Dhabi and lived like a fucking king with his money. Instead, he tried hard to negotiate for the sake of his business, all the people in BNB, and his exchange to go to the United States of his own free volition with no plea deal and plead guilty. That's character. And you just called the man corrupt, whom you've never met. Because again, you're in a fucking cult for a guy that goes and all he does is criticize people. I listened to his criticism about Cardano. It's vacuous word salad, but you guys drink it out of a fucking cup because he's charismatic and confident. And what has he built? He forked technology I invented. And he slapped on a crude-ass consensus algorithm, and suddenly he's a fucking genius. And then you say everybody picks on us, everybody attacks us, everybody's against us. I regret apologizing to you, Charles. Oh, Jesus Christ, man. You're the one who just called one of my good friends corrupt after all the good things he's done for this industry. Y'all seem to love the markets. Y'all seem to love the liquidity, the $1 trillion of transactions that Binance has processed since 2018. You like the $2 trillion crypto markets, but yet somehow, some way, he's the bad guy in all of this because everybody's against your guy, and it's not his fault. He's not accountable for anything he does or says. When the government actually arrests him, it's all a conspiracy because they're scared of a guy living in Finland who buys black diamonds and wears Louis Vuitton jumpsuits. They're scared of this guy. They're scared he's going to overthrow the markets. They're real terrified of it, really. They're terrified of Elon Musk because he does what he says and he can manipulate nation states. They're terrified of Trump. So much so they tried to kill him twice because he's in charge of the most powerful country in the world and he's weaponizing it to kill everybody that's against him. Those are the people they're fucking scared of, man. They're not scared of a guy in a Louis Vuitton jumpsuit sitting in Finland. This is a nuisance person at best. And there's nothing there that indicates financial liberty and freedom for people. That's the Pied Piper bullshit tale that he's spinning for all of you. And here's what your community is going to do now. They're going to take what I just said, they're going to chop this shit up, and they're going to go on another rage campaign and try to burn me down again. That's the game we live in. And the reason why I'm still here after 15 years is people respect me. And they respect me because I tell people the truth. Not the comfortable, flowery bullshit. I tell people the truth. I look them in the face and I say, these are the real people and these aren't the real people. And that's what I'm always going to do, no matter what. Because I don't want to be popular. It's just that simple.
And the fact, Charles, too, that you are always coming on these spaces, getting questions from the community, that earns my respect. You know, like you've earned my respect by that, man. Because I don't see any other founder doing that, coming, speaking to the people, right? Answering questions, whether they be, tough questions or not. Like you're showing up consistently every single
Can I
day.
field the question?
I respect that. Go ahead, Benny. Yep, you got the floor, man.
Charles, everybody